Launch maps in Call of Duty Zombies games can make or break the rest of the game's life cycle. It's the first impression, the free map everyone would receive with their copy of the game, regardless of whether they bought or downloaded any further DLC past launch. Up until just a few years ago, subsequent DLC releases were paid. This was before the time of free DLC launches. What you got on the disc is what a majority of players were going to play, and the only experience they were going to have with this new game. So of course, every developer wanted to make a great impression with their launch map, the first eyes they'd have on their new game, and for any developer not named Treyarch, the first eyes they'd have on their brand new take on Call of Duty Zombies. More often than not, something that was about to get torn to shreds and eaten alive by the community, because it's not the precious and all-powerful Treyarch releasing this new take on the mode. Dating all the way back to World at War, the first iteration of Call of Duty Zombies, the game on disc came with the first map or first set of maps for the community to play on day one for free, included with their new Call of Duty purchase. There is one caveat to this universal truth though. This is all-inclusive except for Advanced Warfare's Exo Zombies. Every single Call of Duty game with a Zombies mode has included at least one launch map for free except for Exo Zombies. This game's technical launch map came with the launch of the mode in its first paid DLC rather than with the launch of the game, so it won't count as part of this video nor the traditional definition of a launch map. For all avoidance of doubt and for the purpose of this video, I'm only covering what I consider a launch map, the free included on disc map or maps that came with the game. Now the history of launch maps in COD Zombies is pretty rocky, especially the quality ups and downs of the first free maps that typically came with each new Black Ops release. We've had a real roller coaster in terms of quality, community popularity, content fullness, and more with these first maps. I'll primarily be focusing on Treyarch's Black Ops releases, so here's a quick recap of each game's launch maps. Nocturne Toten was featured in World at War, the first ever Zombies map. Kino der Toten in 5 alongside Dead Ops Arcade and Black Ops 1, although in this case Dead Ops Arcade counts more as its own unique sub-mode within Zombies rather than a traditional map. Then Transit and its related survival counterparts in Black Ops 2. Black Ops 3 brought us Shadows of Evil and the Giant, a remaster of Der Riese from World at War, which was a pre-order bonus, so it counts but it doesn't count. It was technically free if you pre-ordered the game, but was a paid add-on post-launch if you were a normal person and just bought the game standard. I'll count it because it was, by technicality, free at the exact point of launch. Moving on to Black Ops 4, the most map-filled launch of any Black Ops title, we received 9, Blood of the Dead, Voyage of Despair, and Classified. Classified being yet another pre-order bonus remaster, this time of Black Ops 1's 5, another launch map. Again, same qualifications as Black Ops 3, so I'll allow it. Black Ops Cold War brought us D Machine, a reimagining of Nocturne Toten from World at War, and Black Ops 6 gave us Terminus and Liberty Falls. Finally, Black Ops 7 gave us Ashes of the Damned, this map being a spiritual successor to Black Ops 2's Transit, yet another launch map. Now that's a ton of maps, tons of free content. If you were to only buy the base game of each Black Ops release, you would have received 14 different unique Zombies maps. And that's not even counting games like Infinite Warfare and Zombies in Spaceland, its launch map, or World War II's The Final Reich and Groston House, nor Modern Warfare 3's take on Zombies, which technically didn't have a launch map, because its launch map was just that season's Warzone map, Urzikstan, with a red filter placed on it. And as per usual, we won't talk about Call of Duty Vanguard. It's not real, and it can't hurt us. Now I've covered every launch map. So let's take a look back and talk about the best, the worst, the mid, the in-betweens, and how these games fared at launch. Now personally speaking, there are only a few launch maps that really didn't settle well with me. For the most part, each and every one of these launch maps really did set the tone for the rest of the game, and typically it'd be a pretty high note, an exciting start with a banger of a map that got typically the most care and attention of any map in the game because it had the longest time to develop. It was made alongside the entire game itself over the 2 to 3 year development cycle, where each subsequent DLC release had shorter dev cycles, and as I previously mentioned, they were usually paid releases that less and less folks would buy as the game's life cycle went on and the initial player base dwindled. And as a result, these were typically lesser popular maps, lesser played down the line, and often lesser remembered. And while that's not true for games like Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3, I would love to quiz you on whether or not you can actually name every map that came out in Black Ops Cold War, Black Ops 4, Black Ops 6, or any of the non-Treyarch Zombies maps, launch or not. In my opinion, the games that truly had the strongest launches were World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 3, and Black Ops 7. But what was so great about those launches? What sets them apart from the other titles and their launch maps? Let's start with World at War. It, of course, gets the benefit of being the first. It gets the benefit of starting the game, and the entire Zombies mode as a whole. It has the strongest vibes, it's got the cool factor, it's creepy, it's almost like loading up a horror game for the first time. It set the tone for the entire mode and introduced us to COD Zombies, and as such, as a launch title, it knocks it out of the park, because it quite literally built the park and the boundaries of it in the first place. Now moving on to Black Ops 1, this game additionally has the benefit of being tied to an immensely popular COD game and being the follow-up to the first ever COD Zombies maps, and only the second game to feature zombies at all. Kino der Toten is historically immensely popular, and often ranked at the top of a lot of people's lists as the best of all time. It's casual friendly, it has a very intuitive layout, it It introduces cool new mechanics, an awesome new wonder weapon, it's visually very pleasing, and it was one of 2 launch maps alongside 5, so it didn't get stale quickly. Launching the game with 2 maps allowed it to split the player base and allowed for more casual players to play Kino, where the more challenge-forward players jumped over to the game's more difficult map, 5, without forcing everyone to one spot where the maps become stale quicker. Now my next favorite of the bunch, Black Ops 3, launched with Shadows of Evil, and if you were there for Black Ops 3's launch like I was, this is probably going to be a pretty controversial take. The immediate community reception to Shadows of Evil was not great, but I truly think it's one of the best launch maps we've ever gotten, hands down. Looking back at it now, it's an insanely cool setting and a really cool premise with great characters, but the community didn't love it at first. Well, we've all become accustomed to Black Ops 3's complexity and more tedious Easter eggs, and the game pretty much jumping the shark and becoming more of a looter survival story game than it is just a simple wave-based survival mode. The initial shock to Shadows of Evil introducing us to that concept by forcing the player to turn themselves into a giant sentient squid monster in order to unlock parts of the map, jamming their fist up the back of an alien gun as the map's wonder weapon, needing to partake in a 4-player minimum Easter egg, adding special swords and new game mechanics, wall running and satanic rituals to get to the pack-a-punch, throwing giant lizard monsters at you alongside zombies. It was a lot to take in. So most folks who wanted the more traditional experience flocked over to the game's other launch map, the Giant. It's just a simple, innocent remake of Derice, a historically very popular map from World at War, so it gains the benefit of being the game's more casual-friendly, easy map. And again, another benefit that I think Black Ops 1 has. One bigger, broader map, one smaller, but in the opposite in terms of difficulty. This game's big map is its harder one, the small map being the more casual-friendly one. Again, helping fight off staleness, giving the community choice, and as such, gives it 2 thumbs up from me as the strongest launch maps. Although for this one, you do have to look at it retrospectively, rather than looking at whether or not Black Ops 3 had great launch maps at the time of launch. And now moving on to the final great launch map in my opinion, Black Ops 7's Ashes, a total reimagining of Transit, a reboot of our Ether storyline, an actual successful attempt at a more wide open world map, and one with a very fun and unique Easter egg main quest, a cool setting, interesting new mechanics, good weapons, and beautiful design. A fantastic start to what so far has been a great new Black Ops release, and a true return to form for the mode. And it does also have the benefit of being the immediate follow-up to Black Ops 6, which was overall more of a letdown. I'll talk about that in a second. So to recap, our strongest launch maps are Kino der Toten, 5, Nacht der Untoten, Shadows of Evil, The Giant, and Ashes. 6 great launch maps that are included in 4 different Black Ops games. If we're including non-Treyarch games in here, I would also put in Infinite Warfare's Zombies in Spaceland, as well as World War II's The Final Reich. Now on to the more mid-launch maps. I'll go quicker on these ones because they're a lot less notable. They're not necessarily bad, but they just weren't super memorable. For me, these are Black Ops Cold War's D Machine, as well as Black Ops 4's full suite of launch maps in both this tier and bleeding into the bad tier. Now to set the record straight, I do think D Machine is a neat new take on Nacht der Untoten, the map that it's remaking. It does a lot to expand on the map itself, it helps begin the reboot of traditional zombies after a decently long absence from the Treyarch mode, and in my opinion it may be one of the strongest entries in Black Ops Cold War in general, but for me it also stands as a very bland, boring kickoff to a new Black Ops game, and being the best of a bad bunch doesn't mean you're the best. It's good in comparison to the rest of Black Ops Cold War, but I did not like Black Ops Cold War. I think all of its maps are pretty weak across the board. So for me it doesn't classify as a necessarily bad map, but it's not a very memorable one, and it's not one that I'll go back to pretty much ever again. The design of D Machine is very boring. It's not trying to be very risky or daring, it's trying to be a remake so that it can ease you into a new version of zombies, the next generation of Treyarch zombies. It inherently is not going to take any risks. That's fine, but that doesn't make it very memorable, so for me it's a very mid-tier map. Now Black Ops 4's launch maps fall into the mid-tier for a different reason. I'll talk about Blood of the Dead Classified and 9 in a second. First I need to talk about Voyage of Despair. I don't think most folks really remember this map, and that might be the fault of it being one of 4 launch maps in this game. It's zombies on the Titanic, it's a cool concept, but I don't even remember what the wonder weapon was. I couldn't tell you anything about the Easter egg other than I think you shoot some planets at some point or something like that. I really honestly don't know. And that's why it sits as an unmemorable launch map for me. It's one of 4. This game was oversaturated with content, and this happened to be the one that fell under the rug. I played so much Black Ops 4 at launch that I was Master Prestige within the first week and a half. I absolutely sweated out this game. And yet I think I've launched Voyage of Despair maybe 3 times in my entire life. I don't think most folks were even aware that it was a part of the game, because all of the initial attention was focused on the other 3 launch maps of Black Ops 4. And those 3 launch maps get us down into the bad tier of launch maps. Now one huge caveat for this section. This is now shifting from were these maps good in general, and more into how were these maps received and continue to be received years later. The absolute biggest asterisk of this entire section being 9. This map arguably has the best shot at being considered a great map. It truly is a very good map, but it was part of a very buggy, messy, broken launch. And I know that breaks the theme of the rest of this video, where I'm talking more about the quality of each map and not the quality of the launches themselves, but unfortunately in this case I do have to acknowledge all of Black Ops 4 in its entirety as a very bad and buggy launch, and as such that tarnishes the reputation of the launch maps, because that's the experience most folks had at the very beginning of playing this game. And the launch maps are meant to be the start of the game. They're supposed to be your first impression. If it leaves a bad first impression, that means it was a bad launch. And that being said, 9 does have its flaws. It has a very wonky Easter egg with a bizarre boss fight. It is by all technicality the introduction to our new Chaos crew, which were very quickly abandoned by Treyarch and never talked about again. It introduces a weird new crowd meter, which is basically just the game's way of judging your playstyle, which could feel very much like a punishment to a brand new player playing this map for the first time right at Black Ops 4's launch. And very similar to something like Black Ops 6 or Voyage of Despair, this map doesn't have a lot of replayability to me. I was focused on the other two maps, Blood of the Dead and Classified. So those two maps were my launch experience. Now, Blood of the Dead and Classified actually stand as not good launch maps. They had so much potential and could have been so much better than they were. I've already done an entire video on Blood of the Dead, so I won't go too far into it, but if you've seen that video, you know my opinion already. Both of these maps are very similar in that they take hugely popular previous games maps or a cult classic previous games map and basically butcher them. Classified is most remembered for having one of the hardest Easter eggs of all time, and not for the traditional way that most zombies Easter eggs are seen as difficult. It doesn't have a complex puzzle step, it's not tedious to redo, it's just a massive time sink, and it's something that most players are never going to do. It literally just requires the player getting to round 150 in order to trigger a boring and low budget cutscene. That's it. It's neither fun nor creative, and most players never did it. Anyone that did complete it likely took advantage of God mode glitches, or are a dedicated high rounder that wanted to get to 150 in the first place and accidentally did it. It's also just kind of boring as a remake of 5. I love 5. I think it's a fantastic map. We didn't need Classified, and that's coming from a huge fan of the original map it's recreating. But all that to say, it's only partially considered a launch map. It was a pre-order bonus, so I can't be too harsh on it. What I can be more harsh on is Blood of the Dead, an actual included on disc base game launch map. The biggest piece of marketing that this game had when it was being released. It was a massive disappointment, and if you want to see more of my opinion on it, go watch my other video about Blood of the Dead specifically. There are a lot of reasons why it falls into the bad tier of zombies launch maps. If Black Ops 4 only launched with 9, it would have been a fantastic launch, but it launched with 4 maps, and it made each one of them worse than the next. Quantity does not equal quality, and Treyarch needed to learn from the failure of the launch of Black Ops 4. And now that I've got arguably the most controversial part of this video out of the way, and you know my hot takes on the mid-tier maps, I want to get to the absolute worst of the worst. These are Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 6's Transit and Liberty Falls. Sorry to you Terminus fans out there, I think that map easily could qualify as a good tier map if it wasn't attached to Black Ops 6. Unfortunately though, Terminus launched alongside a map so poorly received by the community that it made a long-standing community member, Mr. Waffles, have a mental breakdown and ultimately become the biggest zombies hater more than I've ever seen him do before until Black Ops 7 came out, at which he finally turned his tone around and came back to love the mode again. But before I talk about that map, I'm going to start with Transit. You all know the story here. I've talked about it a million times. One of the community's least favorite maps overall, in the game's entire history, let alone as a launch map. I don't need to say much more about Transit because I've done about 15 videos about it already, but just to recap, it was very poorly received at launch, it's still very poorly received today, and it's mainly being redeemed by being spiritually remade in Black Ops 7 as Ashes. Unfortunately, spiritual remakes don't redeem the quality of the original, and if you buy Black Ops 2 today and the only map that you have to play on the core on-disc experience is Transit, I don't blame you for never picking up the game again. And now, on to the map that made me even want to make a video like this in the first place. The map that inspired wanting to talk about the worst launch maps, and of course, by drastic comparison, the best of the best, Liberty Falls, or more affectionately known as Liberty Balls. It kickstarts what I think is a massively disappointing Black Ops entry, because on launch, the actual on-disc, or really at this point the at the time of digital release version of this map, was everything but a zombies map. It's the first time I have ever seen Treyarch, Activision, or any Call of Duty developer have to turn around, admit they made a mistake in releasing something so bad, and then release a vibes booster update to make the map better by physically changing the map itself. And if you're not aware, Liberty Falls is a tiny little snippet of a town featured in a scrapped and then subsequently unscrapped Warzone map, turned into a zombies map by force. It really should have been a bonus map, just a little survival experience, but instead it's a full-fledged launch map with its own Easter egg and side quests, its own story implications, and ultimately the path that the entire game goes down, location hopping between points of interest surrounding Liberty Falls for the rest of Black Ops 6. It's small, it's weird, it has no atmosphere, no aura, no real staying power, it doesn't have great replayability, it doesn't feature anything necessarily unique or interesting in the slightest, and it's just not good. I think for a lot of players, the potential of what could have been, as we've we've seen teased in Treyarch's History of Zombies art book and the concept art for Liberty Falls was so exciting and interesting that the final product that we actually received and what people were stuck playing felt like the video game equivalent of bland, unseasoned boiled chicken. It's edible, sure, but why even bother? There's no spice, there's nothing interesting about it. It's zombies, yay, we can shoot some stuff and run around in circles. But I'm just running around in circles around some beat-up streets on a sunshiny, beautiful day in a small American town sandwiched between a comic book store and a gas station? I mean, we went from Nazi research bunkers, shooting zombies on the moon, going to Area 51, running around the Pentagon, and so we decided to start the 6th Black Ops entry after all of that by basically going to the zombies map equivalent of Cleveland, Ohio. I mean, maybe I'm being too critical of it, but I think it set the tone for what may be one of the least played and least memorable zombies experiences that we've gotten to date. Now, if all of Black Ops 6's maps were ported to the infinitely more popular follow-up Black Ops 7, I might have a different opinion. Black Ops 7 feels like what Black Ops 6 should have been, and those maps would be great as little bonus maps. Black Ops 6, if not for being a last-second Treyarch save of a failed Raven Software project, could have been a good game. And unfortunately, you can feel how rushed and unexpectedly bad Black Ops 6 is by the immediate tone being set by a fantastic map like Terminus being saddled alongside the most boring and least interesting zombies map of all time with Liberty Falls. So to get to my final rankings, the best of the best launch maps are as follows: Nocturne Toten, Kino der Toten, 5, Shadows of Evil, The Giant, and Ashes. World at War in Black Ops 1, Black Ops 3, and Black Ops 7 take the crowns. The mid to leaning on bad but could be good maps are D-Machine and the entirety of Black Ops 4. They get the medal of riding off into obscurity. And the worst launch maps of all time, Liberty Falls and Transit. And Transit somehow escapes and is not the #1 worst. Interpret from that as you will. Now, do you agree with my ranking of the best and worst launch maps of all time? Do you have a different take on the quality of maps we received on day 1 for each Black Ops game? Let me know your thoughts below. And of course, if you like this video and this style of commentary, and you think that I should do more of these, drop me a like and a comment and let me know. It helps a ton in growing my channel and giving me new ideas for each new video. And of course, to anyone who stuck around for this one is one of the longest videos I've ever done. I appreciate you sticking around, listening to my rants and rambles, and ultimately giving me the support I need to want to keep making more of these. That's all I've got for now, and I'll see you in the next one.